Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Sit Down. We're here with Haruki. How you doing, bro?
I'm not too bad yourself.
I'm good, man.
Good,
That's
good.
the third time. He's an illustrator, an artist, and he does many things within the graphic design world. I mean, he is here to talk to us about his mantras. What are your mantras, bro?
My first mantra is rebellious exploration. The second one, I call it HADOUKEN. It's breaking out the box. Belief and realization is the third. And then the fourth is the calming heart, which is just building, working hard.
Praise you, man. So, first one we're going to touch on is rebellious exploration.
Yeah.
What is that?
Essentially what that is just when we're growing up, especially coming from an area or from, like, for example, my family coming, like, they expect us to be doctors. They expect us to be a stereotype of a model student or model sort of higher class society kind of individual.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of rebellious exploration is just kind of looking past that. Whereas, yeah, we can touch on that and maybe in front of our parents be like, yeah, I'm going to do that. But you're looking elsewhere at what that world has to offer, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what it is.
Cool. And when did you start becoming rebellious in that sense?
When I was young, doing graffiti,
Right.
that was my avenue into art.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, even probably before that, when I used to build Lego, I used to throw away the what do you call it, the manual instructions and just build my own stuff.
Yeah.
I suppose that was my first kind of like rebellious act against, wanting to break out of the norms and exploring what I could do with what I had around me.
Yeah.
So that kind of went to graffiti, then trying to figure out where I could paint, whatever else. And just kind of seeing what I could use with the resources that I had around me, however limited they were. And that's essentially, that's where it came from.
And that little seed that was planted when you're young, i.e. when you're talking about the Lego and graffiti, when did you realize that's something that I want to do, that I want to pursue? When did you realize that it was okay to do so?
To be honest, at that point, it was still just exploration. So it wasn't something that I had essentially registered as something I could do. It was just something I liked to do. So it was just something I would do on the side. Obviously, you get carried away with the world and you get pushed into certain directions with peer groups and whatever else it is. But at that point, there was no idea of I would go down this avenue at all. So I just did it for fun.
Brazy. I guess now you have your own studio.
Yeah, I've got my own studio at the moment, yeah.
And you started that this year, 2020, right?
Probably at the beginning of the year or at the end of last year.
Yeah. So that step that you took to say, all right, cool, this is going to be my job, this is going to be my full-time thing, when did you realize it was okay to do so? Like, in that sense?
I suppose that was kind of like a joining of the sort of second and third mantras. Of one, breaking out of the box, actually being like, okay, I've explored what's on the other side of this fence. Now I'm actually going to jump over the fence. See like how much more I can see out there.
Yeah.
And then breaking, and then sort of like the realization that this could go somewhere.
Right.
And having belief in it.
Right.
So I think that's when I was like, to be honest, I've stumbled across this whole avenue by mistake, essentially. So I was doing a college. I got kicked out of every college and school, like since secondary school, since sixth form.
Yeah.
And then essentially I was like, maybe I should do an access course.
Right.
Decided to do biomed to please my parents. Had a fight. Something happened. I got kicked out that year. They said come back next year. When I went back, they didn't let me in. So I was just like, forget this education stuff. It's never gonna work. My mom was like, just have a look for anything. Looked around, found a games art course, which is like concept design.
Okay.
Jumped into that, and I got like the best grades I've ever got in any academic thing I've done.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, this works. From that straight into uni, and then I've literally just graduated out of uni, and I was supposed to get a first, got a 2-1 because of COVID grading system, whatever, but I did very well in it. So it was within that kind of stumbling upon it that I realized, oh, this is something real. This is something that could actually work. And being introduced to that world, I suppose.
That's crazy, man. And congratulations on graduating.
Appreciate that, thank you.
You've touched upon your second mantra, Hadouken, breaking out the box.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't be privy to it, or they are actually nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah.
What Hadouken means, or where it comes from. And I really respect how you've taken that word and you've personalized it for yourself, as in, like, somebody might come out here and say, just breaking out the box as their mantra, but you've said Hadouken, innit? So how is that, or why is that important to you?
Because I think obviously a lot of my work now is quite Eastern influenced, and I think my first introduction to that was Street Fighter on the Super Nintendo, and just being introduced to the whole idea of sort of the power that Ryu had or Ken had and those kind of things, and I was like, this Hadouken, man, I could use this to get out of anything, kind of thing, you know what I mean? Whenever I was stuck in a situation, and you could get sort of like, you go into the game and you think to yourself, I'm stuck in this situation, I'm about to lose, Hadouken, you get out of it. Yeah. And that's all it was. So I mean, obviously, metaphorically, Hadouken, I'm breaking out of this box that I'm in, using the influences that I learned from games, from artwork, whatever else. And yeah.
That's crazy, man. And I've had this discussion with a couple of my boys, but you say breaking out of the box. What's the box to you, and what are you trying to break into?
I think the box is generally just is limiting yourself to, mentally limiting yourself to one place, one situation, one avenue, without, even if you don't take the other avenues, just limiting yourself to thinking that there's only one. I think once you understand that there are other avenues, there are other paths, that's when you've broken out of that box. Yeah. I think until that point, I feel like you're stuck in that. And a lot of people are comfortable in that, but I feel like as creatives, the more confined we are to limitations, the less we flourish. Yeah. So,
crazy, man. Let's move on to your third mantra, belief and realization.
Yeah.
You know, that takes a lot of self-belief to believe in yourself. Is that something that you had to grow into, or is that something that you had always?
I think if you have to have the self-belief that you can make something work. Sometimes even if you have that belief, sometimes you don't truly believe that it can work, even though you think you can make it work if you're in the right setting. But once you get into a space where you understand that there is an avenue for what you want to make, then your belief becomes solid in the fact that you realize, and the realization sets in, that this belief could actually prosper into something real.
Yeah. And so believing in yourself is such a massive thing, especially I see it as a massive transferable skill in anything in it. And you spoke about yourself, getting kicked out of school, not getting good grades while you were in school. Did that belief come when you finally chose something that was suddenly graded in a, like you said, you got your best grades ever? Is that when you started to believe in yourself, per se?
To be honest, I don't think so. I think more than anything, I think the thing that helped me most was the fact that I felt like I was rebelling. And just that drove me to just be like, fingers up to the wall kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like when I was in uni, I was around a very different kind of set of people that came from quite good academic backgrounds and whatnot, people that weren't from my background. Right. And I went to uni outside of London, so I wasn't around Londoners. So it was always a situation where I felt like this is always just like, yeah, I can do this too, and kind of rebel and being that kind. And I feel like coming from the ends, from London, you kind of have that mentality, that fighting spirit, that fighting mentality where it's like, yeah, I almost like being stuck in a box to break out of that box.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that helps drive you into a mentality where you really believe that this can happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And I see you're tatted up.
Yeah, it tells a story.
Yeah.
There you go.
Is that something that you kind of like? Is that you expressing yourself to the outer world? To
be honest, not really. Like, I've got majority of my tattoos are kind of like almost self-reminders. Like day by day, it's just reminding myself to go with day by day. The rise is harder than the fall. Just mum and dad on both hands.
Yeah.
Like fearless across my knuckles. Stuff like this they're all kind of related to different aspects of what I'm doing. The fearless thing was because I spent most of my life like fighting, like competitive fighting. I've got like patience on my chest so that when I'm looking in the mirror, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I've got like painted on my face, and that was just kind of a representation of like I've suffered from like severe anxiety and depression and shit like that, and I've just been like, my paint is just to kind of like paint away those feelings of whatever. So when I see that in the mirror, I'm remember, all right, cool. No matter how bad today is, put your head in your art, get lost in your own world, and that's it. By the end of the day, my head will be in a different space.
And so, would you say that your art, you know, is something that helps you, almost like therapy?
Definitely, most definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And would you recommend like for people to express themselves in that way or in any way that they see?
Yeah, I feel like whatever. I think obviously everyone has their own sort of peaceful space. For me, it's my artwork, and even though sometimes it might not be a solution, it's always a pleasant distraction.
Right.
So regardless of what the situation is, I can put myself into my art, and if I'm like really rock bottom, I don't sleep very much anyway. So if I'm really rock bottom, I will work on artwork for like 3 days straight, not taking a break at all, just to busy my mind away from everything else, so that I don't end up falling into this kind of like sort of slumber state of depression or whatever, that kind of thing.
That endless circle.
Yeah.
I hear you, man. And we can touch upon your fourth mantra, which is Kamehameha, which you said is the power of hard work and patience.
The Kamehameha, you know what it is? It's that resilience of Goku in Dragon Ball Z, where it really kind of sticks out to me as an artist, because I believe that most artists have this thing in their head where we always say, I can do better than what I've just done. And that's all it is. And Goku always has that. He wants the next opponent. And that's how we are. So I feel like for me, it's not a thing where it's like, I'm not trying to achieve like a famous following or like the limelight, as we was talking about like before, whatever. It's more of a thing where I want to make a piece that I was better than the one I made yesterday, and always trying to better myself. So like competing against myself constantly, which I feel is very much a resemblance to Goku, essentially. There you go.
That's crazy, man. And that competing against yourself, man. How important is that in terms of, because you know a lot of people be looking at other people saying that person's doing this and that person's doing that, and it kind of, you know, I feel like we've all been in that position where it kind of demotivates us, saying that person's doing that and I'm doing this and it's not as good as that. Like how important to your work is that I can do better than what I did last time? Like how motivating is that for you?
I think that's natural anyway. Like I think my favorite artists do completely different work than what I do. Like some of my favorite artists are people like Jean-Michel Basquiat. He's a famous painter. His art style is completely different to Michelangelo or Da Vinci or whoever else I like. But each of them have their own specific things where I don't feel like I need to compete with them, because I'm not doing the same thing as them. There are people that do the same thing as me, but I don't.
Is it more of an appreciation thing?
It's to be honest, it's more of an inspiration.
Right.
So I'd be like, oh, okay, I like what you're doing, but I prefer it if I done it this way. So I'm gonna get inspired by your piece. You know, as they say, steal like an artist.
Right.
So you steal, but you don't imitate. A lot of people imitate, though. This is the problem, and I think this is the issue now within the art world, where there's a lot of up and down and debate. But generally, I look at a piece, I'm like, okay, cool. I love this composition. I might not, to be honest, I might be inspired by a piece. My piece looks worlds different, but people don't understand that I've taken something like a color palette,
Right.
and that's what has inspired me from this piece. You know what I mean? So that's essentially what it is.
Yeah, man. And you know, we talk about patience as well, and as a creative, patience is a big thing.
Yeah, but you know what is? I feel like the patience comes especially in the early days when you're just first starting off. I mean, that's when the patience will get to you the most, because you're still trying to learn to understand how to do basics, how to do the foundations. Once you get over that, because obviously now I draw probably 20 hours a day, so now the muscle memory in my hand is doing the foundations automatically. So now my mind is thinking about other things. So for me now, I don't get impatient, because by the time I'm doing a piece from start to finish, 12 hours has gone by, and I don't even realize it's gone by like that.
Yeah.
So I think once you can get over that hurdle of having the foundations as your second nature, then everything becomes just up from there. You get stuck with things like art block, things like that, but I think art block, I think people assume that art block is where they're falling behind, or they can't keep up with themselves. I believe personally that art block is you running too far ahead, and you need to take 2 steps back so that your mind and your physical can kind of align again.
Yeah.
But that's what, I think once you get over that kind of hurdle, you're alright.
Crazy, man. And you know, you just spoke about the mind and the physical aspect. Is there anything you do in particular to get your mindset in that zone that you're able to be as productive, I guess?
I'm very much a person where it sounds funny, but I like to sit in the same place.
Right.
I like to be in the same familiar settings where I don't have to think about who's around me, what's around me,
right,
new settings, anything to distract me. I like to just sit in the same place. So whether I'm, I go and draw in Starbucks every day.
Right.
I sit in the same seat. The staff know me. They know what time I arrive. To the point where sometimes they do my drink before I arrive, because they know I'm arriving at that time.
Yeah.
If I go to whatever cafe or this or whatever, there's always one place that I sit in. I never change that seat, and that's just kind of my
routine.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what puts me, when I'm sitting in that spot, I get into that mode, that zone kind of thing. Yeah. If I moved from that, I often get distracted.
Right. And when did you realize that routine was?
I think it just came naturally. I didn't even notice it.
Just what?
Yeah,
it just
just
that's
happens.
Where I'm comfortable. That's where that's crazy, man. As we come to the end of this interview, is there a book that you read that motivates you or helps you in this time?
A book that I read,
or a podcast you listen to?
To be honest, obviously with my work I do a lot of music art. So I do a lot of. Sometimes I just put on music, listen to it. Sometimes I'll listen to anime openings.
Right.
For like 5 hours straight.
Yeah.
Book wise, mangas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, just looking at various different mangas, the work or artist books, like the work of Otomo, who made Akira.
Right.
That kind of thing. I'm obviously a visual person, so I like imagery in books. So yeah, the mangas, artist books, manga books, stuff like that.
Crazy, man. And you touched upon music. Is there any particular anime track, for example, that kind of like pushes you? Bluebird
is a track. Yeah, it was opening for Naruto. It was one of the tracks, but I think that's probably my go-to. That's where I'd start, and I just carry on going from there.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's so wavy that somebody like has taken this thing that is such a like in the world of the eyes of the world, it's kind of like childish, but it's not. Like I feel like I watch a bit of anime, not to the extent that a lot of people do, but like I really do enjoy like the themes that they touch upon.
But my anime obsession came from sci-fi.
For real?
Yeah, so it born through like Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and the openings came because I used to listen to the soundtracks of John Williams, which is, you know, the orchestra, the composer.
That's crazy, man.
And for me, that was just, it just puts you into that mode. You feel like you're in this world.
Takes you away from any troubles.
That's it.
Bro, I love that, man. Last but not least, I want you to look into this camera right here, and I want you to tell your message to the world.
My message. What would I say my message is? Do what makes you happy. Regardless of how long it takes, how hard it is. If you love what you're doing, you will make it work. Regardless of whatever anyone tells you. That's it.
Praise you, man. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that, man.
This has been Sit Down, we're about to stand up. Wait. Thank you so much.
You're just cut off, right at the point where you said, your message, innit?
No way.